Hello, my name is Sharon Cleveland, and I am here to present an argument that income inequality is a problem for business and society. So let's start by understanding exactly what income inequality means. Income inequality refers to the extent to which income is distributed in an uneven manner across a certain population. According to inequality.org, the gap in earnings between America's richest and the rest of the country continues to grow very rapidly. This gap has grown so large that America's top 10% highest income people have more than 9 times the income than the bottom 90%. And additionally, within that 1% average, they are 40 times more likely to have higher income. And globally, we want to think of the research that shows more than 70% of the world's adults that own under $10,000, or 3% of the world's wealth, while the world's wealthiest own over $100,000 in value. They totaled 8% of the population, and they have more than 85% of the global wealth. According to some Pew Research, the share of the world's population defined as poor, those that make under $2 wages per day, is around 15% of the world population. With middle class, those that earn about between $10 and $20 per day wage has grown to about 13%. And the U.S. gaps in wealth among its population are double that of the rest of the industrialized world. So before we can see why that's a problem for both business and society, let's take a look at how a simple look at how income inequality is measured. In economics, the distribution of wealth is measured using the Gini coefficient as a measurement of the dispersion or the gaps of income across a population. So at its simplest level, the higher the number, the greater the inequality. 0 representing perfect equality, in essence everyone has the same income, while a coefficient of 1 or 100% illustrates the maximum inequality amongst a population. And the U.S. rates as number 1 with a Gini score of 80.56 according to Fortune.com. So why is that statistic important? How does it support my argument? This statistic is illustrative of the magnitude of which income inequality can cause a problem for society. Millions of Americans are forced to work longer hours at a lower rate, take on second jobs, or just go into deep debt to make ends meet. Additionally, according to the World Foundation of UNICEF, this statistic aligns with the U.S. having the highest childhood poverty rate of nearly any other developed country. And that childhood poverty translates into lower levels of education, poor health outcomes, increased substance abuse and crime, just an increased exposure to violence. All of these which can cause psychosocial difficulties, according to the American Psychiatric Association. And the problem that is caused for society now will translate into a problem for business. So growing inequality is also a problem for businesses. Capitalism and income inequality often coexist in a very fragile balance. Capitalism is a driver of business, as capitalists seek to reap the rewards or profit of their willingness to take those risks and to be innovative. And to a point, income inequality can spur on capitalism, but more detrimental, we need to remember that it can also cripple that workforce, that the business will need this workforce and depends on this workforce in order to succeed. So a capitalist or a business has to consider the impact that this income inequality has on its talent pool. And as it's more and more made up of less educated, lower income, less healthy talent, a business's ability to recruit top-notch talent becomes more challenging as it now has to compete in the free market. And it also We have seen income inequality become a hot topic in the media, business, and economics, also on the political front, and that has also created a diminished support for the free market and capitalistic concept. People are expressing their disbelief in those foundational principles, and this becomes a problem as business and politics and policy interweave and become more subjective and more erratic. So for an example, the current political administration has implemented a limitation on immigration, and it impacts the workforce, as the majority of advanced degree talent now comes from the outside of this country, such as is in the healthcare field. The imposition of tariffs, we think of additional taxes on businesses. These are imposed on businesses, and they often cause the business to reconsider outsourcing as a viable solution. So income inequality threatens vision, access, and the opportunity that businesses have. All of these issues are caused by the income inequality. They cause problems for businesses, and they detract from the value that capitalism brings to society and businesses. So we know that capitalism actually opens up opportunities for those who would otherwise not have any. I think of the example in our text case study of John Astor and the American Fur Company. Starbucks is also another example of how a business's long-term vision has been hampered. It's now been kind of forced to adapt to the needs of its workforce, and it offers college tuition subsidies to its employees. Another example, we think of India often. India is a great illustration. India has a Gini score of 35, and which is actually considered rather low, moderate to low, and it's becoming more and more competitive on the global market as their workforce becomes more skilled and competes with ours. So in closing, whether looking at the research or statistics relative to the growing income inequality within the US or even globally, it is clear that income inequality is a significant problem for society and businesses, and that not only will capitalism and the free market be at stake, but our children are at stake as well. Thanks for listening.